What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video and to another video of Review Roundup, or another episode of Review Roundup, the series of videos where I'm just kind of jamming a couple of movie reviews here into one video where I don't really feel like I need to make a full video on this movie, and sometimes it's nice to just kind of give a quick recommendation or not recommendation, ramble my thoughts on said movie, and then just kind of end the video right there. So yeah, I've been having a lot of fun doing these Review Roundups. If you guys enjoy these kind of videos, please let me know. If you would like more of these videos, please let me know. And if you also would prefer to see videos or movies get their own video, then also let me know that down below in the comments section. I've been a little bit delayed on commenting back to people. I've just had a lot going on in my personal life, and then keeping up with YouTube, and then also doing collabs on other people's channels. Yeah, there's a lot of changes in my life right now, and a lot of changes I'm going to be making to this channel as time goes on. But yeah, for right now, I've just been a little bit busy, but I will get back to the comments soon. I do see them. I just have a struggle with kind of keeping up with responding to everybody. So without further ado, let's hop into my thoughts on the first review for this video, and that is for John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum. So yeah, I have reviewed the first and second John Wick with my buddy Terry from his channel Terry Talks Movies, but I have not gotten around to reviewing this one, and the reason for that is because I actually just saw it now for the first time. I'm a little ashamed to say that because I'm a huge fan of those first two, a huge fan of Keanu Reeves, and this is just one of those movies that I missed in theaters, and I just never really got around to checking it out when it was on streaming. But thanks to Peacock, it was right there to watch, and yeah, I had a lot of fun with this movie. It goes without saying that the John Wick films are some of the best action films to come out in the last decade, and the director Chad Stahelski, I believe is how his name is pronounced, has just done a phenomenal job doing these films. I mean, it's the only films that he has directed, and he must be incredibly proud. At least I know I would be. And yeah, once again, you have Keanu Reeves in our leading role of John Wick, and just absolutely love him in this role. He doesn't have to do much. He doesn't have to say much. He really is able to just embody this character and say so much about himself and how he's feeling and what he wants to do simply by very minor facial reactions. And I really have to commend Keanu Reeves. I'm sure everybody already has, but you just got to commend the dude for being such a top-notch actor and a top-notch action star this late into his career. The fact that he revitalized his action career with the first John Wick and has kind of made himself to be a household name again today as an action star. Now we're getting the next Matrix. It's just crazy. The dude is top-notch, and I love seeing him in this movie once again. And again, it was directed by the same guy who did the first two. What I will say is I think I like this one just as much as I like the second one. No more, no less. This one definitely has some bigger action at times, but yeah, you know, it's very similar in terms of tone and feel and vibe. But what I enjoy about all of these John Wick films is that you do have a difference when it comes to maybe the way that the camera moves from time to time. The action does get bigger, and one thing I really love about these films is the lighting. There's a color palette to each one of these films that makes them, you know, distinguishable and definitely gives them their own personality, their own feel, their own vibe, their own character, and I really thoroughly enjoy that as these movies have progressed. They're fun to look at. These movies are just incredibly well made, whether it's the performances, the stunt choreography, the cinematography, the lighting, everything about the way that these films look, feel, and are performed is just top notch. And I've said it before in my other reviews for John Wick, but if you have not already checked out Keanu Reeves training videos where it shows him on a real gun course, showing what he's kind of, you know, learned for these films, I mean, the dude is incredibly talented and definitely incredibly dangerous. And so it is awesome that him and the cast, when you see them on screen, they're actually doing their own stunts. You can see that they're doing their own stunts. And what I love about these films that have just kind of been copied all these years now with various other action films is just that these movies do such a great job of really honing in on the action. We tend to have wide angle shots where we're just watching the action play out, and even if the camera is moving, it's these one shot completely letting us see the action kind of shots that I think ultimately is what everybody wants, and which is why we're seeing a lot of action movies kind of lean in that direction. And I love that John Wick kind of set the precedent for not wanting these quick cut action sequences that take away from the stakes. We want to see the fight, we want to see the hand-to-hand combat, we want to see the gunplay, and these films have just been top notch with that from beginning to end. So yeah, Keanu Reeves and everybody else in this film is great. You also have returning actors like Ian McShane and Lawrence Fishburne on top of tons of other people. And then probably the biggest notable addition to the cast in this one is Halle as the character of Sophia, who's like a love interest of the past with John Wick. And one thing I love that these films do is that if they do introduce more information, it's usually playing off of the events of the last film film or expanding upon something that we kind of started to hear about in the last film. But when they introduce a brand new element, a lot of times they don't dive too deep into it, and they give you that surface level amount for you to just kind of understand what's going on, the role that this may play into everything. But I really enjoy that they don't just completely over explain everything. And that was one of my favorite things about the first one, which is probably still my favorite of the three. I love the fact that that first film, hints at the different things that are going on in this world. It hints at this big over-the-top, assassin ring and this, different layers and levels to it all and the way it all works. And they hint at all that, and you really don't need it for the movie. You really don't need it for the story. You're able to understand enough. And then moving into the second film and now in the third film, they do a good job of starting to expand that world, expand that lore, expand what we were slowly getting drizzlings of in the first film and in the second film. And they do it in such a way that gives you more information, lets you in on this world, lets you see this cool assassin world, but at the same time, it leaves a lot of mystery. And I think that's really, really awesome. So with more sequels on the way and spin-offs, I believe there's even going to be a TV series at some point. In this film, there's a whole segment with ballerinas, and apparently that's going to be getting its own spin-off. So overall, I'm really invested in this universe. I love checking it out. I guess I should just mention, because I didn't already, the second film ends with John Wick being excommunicated and excommunicado. Yeah, whatever. I don't really know how to pronounce it properly. But either way, he was excommunicated, and this movie starts off with him kind of being on the run. And I think that Keanu Reeves does a phenomenal job of really selling these moments, and everything from the direction to the cinematography to the choreography to the stunt work to the visual effects to the costume design, set design. These are incredibly well-made action films that without a doubt are some of the greatest in the last decade. And yeah, I don't really have much more to say on that. Let's move on to my second review, and that is for Black Belt Jones, a film that I actually reviewed over my buddy Rashaji Reviews channel. And I wasn't sure if I was going to talk about it here on the channel because Rashad has had me go through a bunch of blaxploitation films, and I've only reviewed, I think, Superfly here on the channel, and outside of that, the only other one that I have ever covered here on the channel is Undercover Brother, and that's a movie that's more of a spoof on that whole genre. I guess you can also add Jackie Brown, but even Jackie Brown is Quentin Tarantino's version of a blaxploitation film, him honoring those films from back in the day. And so with something like Undercover Brother or Jackie Brown, even though they do lean into the blaxploitation genre overall, they're not necessarily, in my eyes, pure blaxploitation, like obviously the films from back in the day, where I have been introduced to a bunch of them now, like Foxy Brown and Coffee and Superfly, and now this one, Black Belt Jones. A big thanks again to my buddy Rashaji Reviews for putting me on to these movies. Even if I don't love them, even if they're not films that I'm dying to review here on my channel as well, a lot of times it's just great to be able to get that under the belt and be able to realize, hey, like this is a new movie I've never seen before that I can say that I've seen now. And so, yeah, it expands my horizons, and I love that. So a big thanks to Rashad if he's watching this. I'm sure he is at some point. But Black Belt Jones, starring Jim Kelly as the lead role, Black Belt Jones. It is a silly, over-the-top, ridiculous film, and similar to a lot of those other blaxploitation films that I just mentioned, have terrible acting, terrible camera work, terrible editing, terrible dialogue, terrible ADR. It's hilarious to watch. It's so over the top and bad. And I think that maybe it's just having seen a bunch of these blaxploitation films up to this point, I just have had a lot of fun with them at this point. At this point, watching this movie, I was just able to have a laugh. This was an entertaining ride for me for beginning to end. Jim Kelly is a terrible actor, and he was really bad in Enter the Dragon, and this film was actually directed by the exact same guy, Robert Clouse, who also directed things like Ironheart, as well as another Bruce Lee film called, what was it called again? Game of Death. So yeah, he's, definitely played with the martial arts genre plenty, and yeah, this movie actually came out after Enter the Dragon, so this was kind of the follow-up, and he got Jim Kelly, who was in Enter the Dragon, to be in this movie, and man, Enter the Dragon is definitely the better film, even though I'm not absolutely crazy about that film either. I think there's great martial arts. I think Bruce Lee and all those things that make it iconic are definitely cool, but overall in terms of story and character, it's not all there. And this film is very similar. It's a film that very much is not very well put together, not very well made, not very well acted. It's silly, it's stupid, it's over the top, but there is a lot of action in this film that gave me a good laugh. The basic gist of this one is that you have these mafia members who are trying to buy this location, this dojo, ends up causing a fight fight, someone ends up dying, and then you have a revenge tale on your hands. And so what I enjoyed about this film is not the story, it's not the acting, it's not the set design, it's not the costume design, it's none of the fantastic things that I was praising about John Wick. And honestly, these are obviously two very different kinds of movies. But what I loved about this film is that it was just good, dumb, cinematic fun for me. Every fight scene in this movie is so overblown, and what I loved about it is that this cheesiness of the fights was that they were so over the top and seemed so fake, but the way that they would hit people and the way that these people would fall over as if they were hit was so real that it really did look like they were fighting. So there's a couple times that somebody gets hit in this movie and the way they fall looks very much like somebody who would have taken a real hit in real life. It's a bit exaggerated, but I love the way that the action happens in this movie. It's dumb, it's silly. Is it something like John Wick? No, not in any way, shape, or form, but it's a silly, good, dumb, fun time. Not a good movie, but entertaining. And I figured I just wanted to kind of catalog it here on the channel. So John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum, as well as Black Belt Jones. Have you seen either of these movies? Please leave a comment down below if you have. Definitely want to hear what you guys have to say. Drop those comments down below. Hit that like button if you guys enjoyed the video. And I'll let you go now. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.